Which car do you like?
Like that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. That one, 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 and that one.
He likes them all. See, it starts at a young age. And as you can tell, I buy a lot of cars here that I started liking when I was younger. And my car collection is pretty much from the early 2000s. Now, the Supra, the new one, you remember I bought one as a rental car, and that didn't go very well because nobody really wanted it. And I wasn't too thrilled with it, right? The car came out. It was a good bit of a disappointment. And you could tell when a model's a disappointment because it dumps directly into the aftermarket, right? Like everyone's like, oh, here's what it could have been. Here's a render of what it should be. All of that stuff. And everybody seemed to make it look like this. And when I say look like this, they put the wing on it, and then they tried to make it look like a modified or just an updated version of the MK4 Supra. And there's a reason the Supra's so popular, and it's this car. It's not Fast and the Furious. Fast and the Furious took this car because it was so popular. And if you watch Sorted, you could tell that this car is still competitive even to this day, putting down big horsepower and giant smiles on, I mean, when done right, because the one on the West Coast wasn't rocking so well. But you get cars like this, and it's very, very exciting. It's very fun. The stuff that makes it cool is the fact that it can make big horsepower, it looks cool, and it can be competitive. Now, Toyota finally had an epiphany, and hopefully it goes beyond that, because they're like, oh, let's make a one-off for SEMA. And they made the Heritage Edition, which is effectively what the 5th gen Supra should have been from the beginning. So it's almost like the Gallardo to the cooler versions of the Gallardo. You've got a car that's now, like, it looks cool. It looks cool. I don't think my concern with the 5th gen Supra was anything other than it was like very, very BMW, but the performance was there. It wasn't slow. It handled pretty well. It just didn't, it didn't spark enough emotion looking at it. It didn't remind me of a Supra, and it was way too BMW. Everybody says the same thing. Nobody really has a problem with the car itself. Now, Supra fixed that, or Toyota fixed that. They made it that the Supra looks like a Supra again. The wing, the front bumper looks better, and they made the Targa. And the Targa makes this car very cool too. And I can tell you what, if Toyota, and I'll put my money where my mouth is, if Toyota makes that car, I will buy one. That is a cool car that I could see enjoying. To really crush it, I think they should throw a manual in it. Like this is where the feedback works. I mean, usually it's not like Acura took the new NSX and like, oh, let's rejigger it to make it look like it's supposed to, like everybody wants it to look. They didn't do that. Toyota sort of did by making this edition. And I would buy a Targa manual, like winged Supra. I think that looks very cool. I'd be all about that. And even if it wasn't manual, it's pretty much enough of a diversion from the current model that would make me, A, probably rent one out again, but B, own one myself, because that I would happily park next to this, because this car, not that it's undrivable, well, right now it's undrivable, it pisses gas on the floor as soon as you start it, because guess what? When you leave race fuel in your fuel lines for 10 years, it eats away at them. So now as soon as I turn the key, it just craps on the floor. So I'll get that up on some jack stands and replace the whole fuel system. I replaced the one fuel line, drove it over here, started it up a couple of weeks later, and another fuel line crapped out. So I guess that says something. We'll blow the dust off this, but I would be very happy to scoop up an MK5 Supra if they do that, because in that price point, I think that car will blow away everything else. And that $55,000, $60,000, maybe even a Targa, $50,000, $55,000, it even rivals the C8 Corvette at that point in time. As far as modability, looks, Targa top, even if it doesn't come in the manual, it will make me overlook all the BMW-ness of that car. And please, just like, you could tune that out. You just like Carly, you can do the iCarly thing or whatever it is, and my Carly, and it gets rid of all that. So why doesn't Toyota do it? Like, why do they have to give you a BMW chime when you open the door? I wouldn't go aftermarket. Even if they don't do a manual, I'd buy that and keep it like that. although I would appreciate a factory manual. I wouldn't do an aftermarket manual swap in a car that doesn't offer a manual transmission. It's never going to be the same. On my Ferrari, I'm okay doing that. No carb. On my Ferrari, I'm okay swapping it to a manual because a manual literally plugs and plays right into, you just unscrew those 4 screws and you throw a 6-speed right on there. And it's easier to do on the 360 than the 430, but this is a more tolerable swap. I wouldn't do a manual swap on a C8 Corvette. It's not designed for that. And I mean, even there's cars you can swap. You'll see a lot of people, because there's so few of these out there, relative. A lot of people will swap an automatic to a manual. And why? Because you get the automatic so much cheaper. Not all 4th gen Supras are the same. In order to have a value, it's got to be a factory turbo and not an automatic. And you'll even see the automatic starting to trend higher for whatever reason, just because maybe it's easier to make money than it is to buy a car that, or learn how to drive stick. But the manual turbo cars are the ones that have a value. The right-hand drive cars don't really have a value in the US. You can see I still have my little, these are all my imperfections on this car. I've got that, and I'm not painting it because I want it to have no paint work. So, except for the hood and the bumper, but I got the factory hood and the bumper too. It's that, and then down here, this and this. Now what is this? Who's getting in my car? Stay out of my car. So that is what we have as far as damage on this car, and that will be the way this car goes until I gotta clean it. Until I do something with it. Now, I always ask myself if I drive this car, because I do enjoy it, like filming Sorted and like driving these other ones. I've been talking about selling this car for 10 years. I've never actually listed it for sale. One day I may, but before that, I would probably buy a second one. Once my house is done, I'm going to buy a GT3. And then I want to get another Supra. I'd get the 5th gen Supra too, but I'd get a 4th gen Supra, the GT3, 4GT. I got a list of cars, but getting the house done was huge. Once that's done, I can start shopping cars again. And then even the 5th gen Supra. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on the 5th gen Supra. Would you buy it? I think that would be like the biggest turnaround on a production run ever. And you would see the first year cars. Some people may say they would have a value because they didn't produce as many or they didn't sell as many as when they make it better, if they make it better, if they're smart enough to do that. But to go through the engineering to make the target top, to redesign the car to make it look the way it does now, and to not do that when everyone's like, whoa, I wouldn't make, if they just came out with the 2022 Supra or 2021 Supra and they just added 3 new paint colors, that's not celebratory. It's not a reason to celebrate, let's put it that way. It's not anything worth even bringing up to you guys. But when I saw that, I'm not gonna lie, I saw that and I was like, I would totally buy that. And I will, and that next to this, in between these two, it's not gonna fit in between these two right now, but I would be all about that, and we will see. So Toyota, you got my, well, you probably don't. You do have my information from the last one I bought. But you got my information, you make that new one, or you would willing to make one for me, which would be really sweet. I will send you money tomorrow. I'll be very happy to do that, because that would be a cool car. That's this, but newer, which is exactly what you were supposed to make to begin with. Thanks for watching. That's it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my dad's YouTube channel and make sure to click the like button.
That's what's up. All right, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Sorted coming up, just waiting for my rough cut, and we'll post it up as soon as it's ready. Take care. So you guys are familiar with my other company, Adventure Drives, right? Well, we're going to be going to Scotland in October. We're going to be doing Scotch distilleries, playing golf at St. Andrews if you want to do that, walking around, seeing lakes, waterfalls, driving the North Coast. It's going to be an amazing trip. Prices start as low as $2,500 per person for the shorter trip in Scotland. If you're interested in going, check out the link in the description.